Luisteren naar het tweede deel van het werk van Emahmn.
Welkom beste kijkers. Vandaag hebben we Emahmn bij ons te gast die de vorige keer uitgebreid verteld heeft over zijn leven. We hebben genoten van zijn autobiografie. Deze keer zal hij gaan vertellen over zijn intent-workshops die uit verschillende delen bestaan. En vandaag gaan we daar nader op in deze aflevering. The last time when we spoke each other,
Yes.
you spoke about the 5 tattwas, how they came into your life. Can you tell us what are tattwas?
Tattvas, all right? The Hindu masters, and this is according to Hindus, they knew about universal energies maybe as early as 10,000 years ago. And they knew that there are only 5 universal energies that produces everything in the universe. These 5 energies are now also discovered by the Western scientists, and we could go in detail quickly and explain what the 5 are. But everybody now agrees that there are 5 universal energies, and everything, every piece of material on Earth, the thoughts, from my little hair to the largest galaxy in the universe, everything is made of these 5 energies. All the particles made of 5 universal energies.
And is there a scientific correlation?
Definitely, definitely. They are. The first one in Hindu, in Sanskrit, is called Akasha, and the shape is an ovoid. So, this is the first one, called Akasha. This is the latest one that was discovered. And when this was discovered, it was really revolutionary, because up to that time, everyone went according to what Newton's information were, but this is totally destroys Newton. Mm-hmm. The understanding is now that if you release material in vacuum, they do not all fall at the same rate of speed. The heavier the object, the slower it will move because of this. So this is called hypercharge. It pushes, the bigger you are, the more push you get against you. All right? In metaphysics, it's called space. In the olden days, they didn't know what to call it. They call it ether or quintessence. Whenever you vacuum everything out of a place, whatever is left is called space. Okay? The second one is called tejas, which is fire in astrology. In Sanskrit is tejas. In science is called electromagnetism. But if you say electricity, nobody would know the difference. It's very closely related. The next one is moon, and it is water, and in Sanskrit it's called apas. It's gravity in science. The next two, the circle and the square, they have a very strange relationship. The circle is called the weak force. The square is called the strong force governing nuclear structure. So these 5, the triangle and the half moon, these two have a game, male-female relationship, and these two have a relationship. And between the 4, everything is created. All right?
All right. So I see they have colors as well.
Yes.
Does this have a meaning? Why
Oh.
are they not black and
Yes.
white? Why it's colored?
Well, yes. I spent approximately 5 years testing different colors, and I became aware of Lucius, which is a Swiss scientist, was a scientist, and he discovered how you could modify behaviors by use of colors. And I studied him separately and I study my own work separately, and then I notice that there is a very one-to-one correspondences between what I have discovered and what he has discovered. So these not only mine, but they are also Lucer's. So somebody says, oh, well, Lucer did it first. Yes, he did it, and he should get credit.
I see under the 5 tatwas that there is a chart of tatwa elements.
Yes.
Can you tell me something about that?
Oh, definitely. When I received the 5 tattvas from my teacher, which his name was Ophir, he would going to work with me privately if I could combine these 5 designs, 5 shapes, one-to-one, like a multiplication table, and make 25 combination, then simply telling what these 25 combinations are. At the beginning, I thought I was very smart and I could do that maybe in 10-15 days, and he kind of like joked about it. He says, as smart as I am, maybe not, but he didn't know, so to speak. But it took 18 years. And 10 of those 18 years, I spent over 12 hours a day before I was able to find out exactly what these mean, what they are correspond to. So, would you like to know more, or would you like me to tell you?
I'd like to know more about that. You said that you made a combination of different aspects. For example, the zodiac signs, the major arcana, the Hebrew letters, the paths in the tree of life, the mothers of consciousness.
Right.
Can you tell me more about that?
Wonderful. Okay. In order for me to design this, my graduate work was in chemistry. So the moment he told me there are 5, I immediately clicked. 5 times 5 is 25. And everyone knows when you have a group of people, there is always one odd person. So I left the odd one out. Of course, I didn't know what that odd would be, but I knew I would call it number 0. Okay? So I was going to leave that out. So then I constructed my table based on chemistry, 3 rows of 8 columns. 3 times 4 gives 3 times 8 gives you 24, and 1 outside, that's 25. Then as I studied Kabbalah, I noticed Kabbalah has only 22 letters. There are 22 Hebrew letters, which correspond to lots of things. The most important thing is that these 20 Hebrew letters, the first thing that these masters have done, that they created this alphabet that each one individually is a mandala. Of course, I didn't know that till later when I started examining my mandalas and checking them out against other things. But the 22 also, there are 10 planets, and according to Kabbalah, when they were discovered, there were 10 planets. They knew about 10 planets and 12 zodiac signs. That's 22. And then there is a tree of life, which is the map of consciousness of Kabbalah. And that has 22 paths or roads that you have to find your way to get to a certain place. And then so what I did, instead of numbering my elements from 1 to 8, I went only 1 to 7, and then 8 to 14, 15 to 21, 1 outside, that's 22, and then I had 1 row left, which are not part of the 22. But also the 22 is very important, people, to know these are 1-to-1 correspond to major arcana of tarot cards.
So, and what happened with the one which wasn't in?
The last 3. Oh, yes.
Well, you said you had 25
yes.
together, and in a group there's always one who's left out.
Yes.
What happened with that one?
But the left out ultimately became 0 and corresponds to Uranus, which corresponds to Fool of tarot cards, which is the first path that goes from the first Sephira to the second Sephira of in Tree of Life, and it represents the higher self or super consciousness or your inner voice.
Right. And because there were 3 leftovers from the 22, which you could fill in yourself, what did you do with that?
Okay, but those, as I told you, these 25 correspond to a lot of things, and I have a book called Book of Correspondences that each page represents one of these elements. In that book, I talk about also runes, which come from Scandinavian people. The 3 plus the 22, the 25, complete set of runes. But also these 3 are part of the Tree of Life, and under certain conditions, some people, we use them in mandalas, which we could talk about later.
Okay. And why did you create 3 rows?
All right, there are 3 rows because the first row in Kabbalah is called principle.
Which is meaning?
Principle are like ideas. Okay, the second row are laws. And the third one, the third row is called results. So if you study the first one or any one of these, let's say concentration, this is the idea of concentration or the principle of concentration, working through the law of suggestions produces physical reality, but also helps you to have the first tiny inclination that there might be something going on that you don't know about. Actually, what it does, it helps you to become aware that maybe you're not as free as you thought you were. You're captive. Right. You're in bondage. So these are the 3 rows.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yes.
Sure.
Can you tell me something about your interpretation of Christ consciousness?
All right. In order to do Christ consciousness, we will have to talk about Tree of Life. Okay? In Kabbalah, they have a map called Map of Consciousness or Tree of Life. And the system is designed that every human being could ultimately achieve Christ consciousness. In other systems, most people in Christianity, you are doomed. It's just they don't have a system by which you could follow and take charge and work toward achieving that goal. But in Kabbalah, what you have to do, reach the 6th Sephira. When you are at the 6th Sephira, you have a direct line, which is your own subconscious mind, to the highest God. So all you have to do, find your way through this maze, through clearing, through meditation, with the aid of processes or whatever way that you can. Basically, ultimately, is all meditation. And so,
can you tell us something more about your understanding about meditation?
All right. When I'm in my workshops, I always ask this question: what does meditation mean to you? Why are you meditating? What's the purpose of it? But now the table has changed, so I have to answer that question myself. Okay. according to my understanding, ultimately we are all divine. We are godlike. If this is true, which is, by the way, my belief, then how come we got so messed up, so screwed up? I examined this for a very long time, and I discovered the basic thing that happened, that caused this problem, is that we believe pain. Every human being claims that they have experienced pain, they had pain, they connect pain to things, which is not true. In reality, there is no such thing as pain, but that's a workshop all by itself. However, the moment a person assigns pain to a situation, because it's a lie, your subconscious mind, a part of you, will remind you of this lie for you to release it. But then we don't, and if you don't release it, it is recorded as a new lie, and then doubles and doubles and doubles. In another word, if you hit me right now, and I say, oh, this was painful, and I think about it 10 times, you have not hit me once, you had not hit me 10 times, you have hit me 1,028 times. Because 2 to the power of 10 is 1,028.
Etc., etc.
Etc. All right? So then, how are we going to clean these up? There are millions and billions of ways of going back, recalling these incidents, and cleaning them up. So that is one thing that we do in meditation. We sit, we recall these incidents, and we duplicate them. And if you want to know scientific part of it, you guys got to call me back, and I give a 2-hour workshop and teach you how you do it scientifically. But in the meditation, what happens, we recall these painful incidents, and when we duplicate them, we release them. That's what meditation is.
Right, and where do the mandalas come in?
Okay, when you meditate, you bring up, whether you meditate or you're working with psychologists or psychiatrists or teacher or whoever, you bring up these pictures, these incidents one at a time, and you release them one at a time. But mandalas are designed to represent a set of these things, sometimes maybe 10 million or 10 billion. So when you duplicate a mandala, when you meditate on mandalas, you're not releasing one at a time, you're releasing millions and billions of them at a time. But what are mandalas? Maybe we should talk about what do I mean by mandalas, yes?
Good idea.
All right. In order to talk about mandalas, first of all, everybody got their own definition. There are some common things. My definition is mandala is a set of geometrical design that would communicate to everyone the same set of information. In other words, if you look at it, you would get the same thing that a person in North Korea or the person in South Africa. We all get the same result.
Because you studied it as a complex of all these aspects which we were talking about together. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Now, the only thing that everyone have to remember, for instance, I have a design that would help people to learn math. Now, if a mathematician look at the design and a person that has no idea about math, there would be a difference. The mathematician would get new ideas about math. It would be faster and sharper and quicker. But the person that doesn't know any math would release the patterns that is stopping him so he could learn math.
So how many of these mandalas you designed?
Altogether, I have designed approximately 4,000.
Can you mention some more aspects for which you can use the mandalas in this kind?
Yes, yes. They basically I have two kinds of mandalas. One set of mandalas are designed for a specific purpose, becoming an artist, becoming a good violinist or football player, learn math, learn languages, or for healing purpose. Let's say a person has a knee injury or headache, and we could talk about that in detail later. But they are specifically designed to achieve a certain task. These are one set. The second set that I designed for people, according to Kabbalah, every human being that comes to earth comes to master one of those 22 Hebrew letters, which they call mode of consciousness. They believe when you master the 22 mode of consciousness, then you reach the sixth sephira, or Christ consciousness, or member of fifth kingdom, or there are many, many names, superhuman being. You become that. So in order to design those, then I need to have the person's astrological chart. I use numerology, and I use some other techniques to design a personalized mandala. And these personalized mandalas help you to, after you meditate on them, say for 6 months to a year, then something happens that you notice you do certain things differently, and ultimately your own subconscious mind helps you to change your behavior to achieve that particular task.
Your life task.
Your life task,
Right.
yes.
So the first kind of mandalas, you don't need a chart. You can design.
Right.
They are already designed,
Right,
and whatever people need, they can ask for,
right.
and you can supply them a mandala for that
Yes.
purpose.
Absolutely. For instance, I have in here, this book was designed when I was a high school teacher, and I had a lot of students. I had special students that they were like 11th or 12th grade, but their math ability was about second, third grade. Somehow they moved them up. I don't know why. So I designed these mandalas to help them. This particular one, number 38, this mandala, and number 39, this one, and the last one is number 40, which I'll let you look at them. Now, if a person, I usually have these in black and white, and I ask the student to color them. People say, why you should color them if you have them in color? Well, if you ask a student to spend an hour meditating on this, it's not likely they would do it. But if you say color this, it would take at least an hour to color it, and I have achieved my goal by having them do that. But I had grown-ups in college that they could not get their master's degree because they couldn't pass math. And I had them meditate on these for 3 months, and they go back and they are top of their class. But it's the same for other things like art and all kinds of other things. But these are generic.
Okay, so people can also come to you for personal consulting
Right.
and also for workshops.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And can you tell me on what are your mandalas based on? Because they look different than the mandalas I knew. Can you tell me something more about it?
Well, my mandalas, first of all, based on the 5 tattvas that the Hindu masters discovered. That's the most important part. And these are the 5 tattvas again, and I combined them and I made the 25 elements. So everything that I do is based on this chart. But also I study Kabbalah to find out how you combine energy. In Hindu mysticism, they don't teach you these. They are no written material. But in Kabbalah, they are hints, and they tell you enough information that you could put two and two together and figure out things. So Kabbalah plays a big role. Also, for personalized mandala, the only Kabbalah gives you a formula that you could use with your zodiac chart and discover what your task is, and also what would help you
To support you.
yes, to do that. And then I, of course, in my mandalas, I use numerology, I use the Hebrew letters. They are all based on the tree of life. There is some relationship in it, so when I explain, I always explain from astrology and tree of life. And I also use lunar colors and so on. So,
And how would you design a mandala?
all right, how would I design a mandala? That's very good. The first thing I do is that I make your zodiac chart. And from that, I extract certain information. And those information, I take them to my original chart here. When I use the Kabbalistic formula, I get numbers. And those numbers, I have set it up that directly correspond to the numbers on this chart. So I could quickly discover what elements of the chart goes into a mandala. So by doing that, I will select my elements and then I use these to produce the mandalas. All right?
Nice. And you wanted to tell me more about where Hebrew letters has taken a place in your mandalas. And maybe we can talk about this next time.
Yes.
Dit was de aflevering voor vandaag, waarin we in zijn gegaan op de workshops die Emahmn geeft. We hebben nu een introductie daarover gehad. Volgende aflevering zullen we ingaan op het Hebreeuwse alfabet. Tot volgende week.